The metal floor was cold against Dae-jung's face. His hands were bound behind his back with some kind of energy restraint that burned whenever he moved. Blood dripped from his split lip onto the dark surface below him. He could hear boots walking around him in a slow circle. Commander Thrakval looked down at the human prisoner with disgust. The creature was so small and weak. It had skin that looked like it would tear with the slightest touch. No claws, no natural armor. No fangs, just soft flesh and fragile bones. How did such a pathetic species even survive long enough to reach space? The commander was massive compared to the human. He stood over 7 feet tall with a body covered in thick armor-like plates. His forearms could crush steel. His jaw had mandibles that could bite through bone. Around the room, other Vralketh warriors watched the interrogation with amusement. To them, this was entertainment. The ship hummed quietly around them. The Crimson Fang was a war cruiser built for conquest. For 3 weeks, it had been attacking human colonies on the edge of known space. Every battle had been easy. Human weapons barely scratched Vralketh armor. Human soldiers broke and ran when they saw the true strength of the Empire. Thrakval kicked the human onto his back. Dae-jung grunted but did not cry out. The commander leaned down, bringing his face close to the prisoners. "Tell me where your military bases are," Thrakval said in rough but understandable human language. "Tell me and I will make your death quick." Dae-jung looked up at the alien commander. His brown eyes were calm despite the pain. Despite the hopelessness of his situation. He said nothing. Thrakval laughed. The sound was harsh and grinding. "Look at this. A paper creature that thinks it is brave." He stood up and addressed his crew. "This is what humans are. They pretend to be warriors, but they are nothing. They are prey that forgot its place in the galaxy." The other Vralketh warriors clicked their mandibles in agreement. One of them, Sub-Commander Hyunwoo, watched more carefully than the others. Something about the human bothered him. The prisoner had been captured 3 days ago during the fall of Colony 7. Most captives begged for mercy by now. Most broke within hours, but this one just stared with those unsettling calm eyes. Thrakval grabbed Dae-jung by the throat with one massive hand and lifted him off the ground. The human's feet dangled in the air. The commander's grip could easily crush a steel pipe. Surely this soft-skinned creature would panic now, would beg now, would tell them everything just to breathe. But Dae-jung just looked at him, even as his face turned red, even as his body fought for air. Those eyes stayed steady, focused, almost bored. Thrakval threw the human against the wall. The impact made a loud bang. Dae-jung slid down and hit the floor hard. That should have broken ribs, should have shattered bones. But the human slowly pushed himself back to his knees. Blood ran from a cut above his eye now. He spat red onto the floor. "Amazing," Hyunwoo said quietly. "It is still conscious." "It will not be for long," Thrakval replied. He walked over to a control panel on the wall. "Let me show you all how weak humans truly are. Watch this." He pressed a button. The gravity in the interrogation chamber increased. Dae-jung felt the sudden weight pressing down on him. 2 times normal gravity, then 3. His legs shook with the effort of staying upright. The pressure made every breath difficult. "On our homeworld, this is normal," Thrakval said proudly. "Vralketh children play in this gravity. But for a human, this should be crushing you into the floor. 4 times normal gravity." Dae-jung's knees buckled. He went down hard. The pressure was enormous. It felt like a giant hand pushing down on every part of his body. His vision started to blur at the edges. Blood vessels burst in his eyes, turning the whites red, but he did not lay flat. Somehow, impossibly, he kept his head up, kept his hands under him, kept breathing in short, controlled gasps. Thrakval increased it again. 5 times normal gravity. The human should be dead now. Should be nothing but broken bones and crushed organs. But Dae-jung was still moving. Inch by agonizing inch, he pushed himself up. His arms trembled. His whole body shook. But he rose, first to his knees again. The effort made veins stand out on his neck and forehead. Sweat mixed with blood on his face, and then impossibly he put one foot down, then the other. He stood. The room went silent. Even Thrakval stared. This was not possible. No creature so small and weak should be able to stand in 5 times gravity. Most species would be paced on the floor. Dae-jung stood there swaying, bleeding, barely able to move. But standing. He looked directly at Thrakval. When he spoke, his voice was rough but clear. "Is that all you have?" For the first time in his long military career, Commander Thrakval felt something cold in his chest, something that might have been doubt. He shut off the gravity increase and the human collapsed immediately, unconscious, finally broken. "Take it to the holding cells," Thrakvol ordered. 3 days without food or water. We will see how brave it is then." As guards dragged the limp human away, Hyunwoo stepped closer to his commander. "Sir, I request permission to review the prisoner's file." "Why?" Thrakvol asked irritably. "It is just another weak human." "With respect, Commander, that was not weak. I have seen many species under interrogation. I have never seen anything like that. We should know more about what we are dealing with." Thrakvol waved a hand dismissively. "Do what you want. It will not matter. The creature will break soon enough. They all do." Hyunwoo went to the ship's data center and pulled up everything they had captured about the prisoner. Most of it was standard military information. Name, rank, unit assignment. But then he found something that made him stop. Lieutenant Dae-jung was not regular military. He was part of something called Special Operations Command. The file was heavily encrypted, but what little Hyunwoo could read was disturbing. This human had training in survival, resistance, and escape. He had combat certifications and weapons that Hyunwoo did not even recognize. His psychological profile used words like determined, resilient, and extremely dangerous. There was a note at the end of the file in multiple languages. It was a warning. Do not underestimate based on physical appearance. Human Special Forces operators are trained to endure beyond normal limits. Hyunwoo sat back in his chair. They had not captured a random soldier. They had captured something much more dangerous. Something that had been trained specifically to survive situations exactly like this one. In his cell far below, Dae-jung lay in darkness. His body screamed with pain, but his mind was clear. He had survived worse than this during training. Much worse. The instructors had pushed him to the very edge of death and then pushed further. They had taught him that the body could endure far more than the mind thought possible. He thought about his team, about the mission, about the civilians they had been trying to evacuate when the Vralketh attacked. He hoped at least some of them made it out. Dae-jung closed his eyes and controlled his breathing. In through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out through the mouth for 4. It was a technique he had used 1,000 times before. It slowed his heart rate, helped his body start healing, kept his mind focused. The aliens thought they were interrogating him. They thought they were breaking him down. They did not understand that every second he stayed alive was a victory. Every moment he kept silent was another moment for his people to escape. And if an opportunity came, if there was even the slightest chance to escape or fight back, he would be ready, because that was what humans did. They did not give up. They did not surrender. They kept fighting long after every other species would have quit. The Vralketh would learn this soon enough. 3 days passed like years in the darkness. Dae-jung sat in his cell with his back against the cold wall. The Vralketh had given him almost no food and only enough water to keep him barely alive. The temperature swung from freezing to burning hot every few hours. The lights flickered on and off at random times to prevent sleep. These were standard interrogation tactics. Dae-jung had studied them all during his training. More importantly, he had experienced them all. The instructors at Special Operations Command did not just teach theory. They put every candidate through actual resistance training, real torture, real suffering, all designed to prepare them for exactly this situation. So while his body hurt and his stomach cramped with hunger, his mind stayed clear. He used the time to memorize the guard patterns, to listen to the sounds of the ship, to plan. On the morning of the 4th day, guards came for him. They dragged him back to the interrogation chamber. Dae-jung let his body hang limp between them, let them think he was weak and broken. But inside he was counting steps, memorizing turns, noting which corridors had cameras and which did not. Commander Thrakvol waited in the chamber. He looked frustrated, angry, good. Angry people made mistakes. The guards threw Dae-jung to the floor and left. The door sealed behind them with a hiss. Thrakvol walked in a slow circle around the human prisoner. "I have decided something," the commander said. "You will tell me what I want to know, not because I ask nicely, but because I will show you exactly how weak your species is compared to mine." Dae-jung slowly pushed himself to his knees. His movements were careful and controlled despite the shaking in his limbs. When he looked up at Thrakvol, His eyes were still calm. "You talk a lot," Daejung said quietly. His voice was rough from lack of water, but steady. "Is that a Vralketh thing? Or just you?" Thrakvol's mandibles clicked with rage. He grabbed the human by the throat again and lifted him high off the ground. This time he slammed Daejung against the wall and held him there. The grip tightened more. The human's face started turning purple. "Break," Thrakvol hissed. "Beg. Show me the fear that all weak creatures show." Daejung could not breathe. Black spots danced in his vision. His body screamed for air. But he had been here before too. During underwater training, they had held him down until he passed out, then revived him and done it again, and again, until panic became something he could push away even while drowning. Through the pain and oxygen deprivation, Daejung did something that shocked the commander. He smiled. It was a small smile, dark, almost pitying. Thrakvol threw him down in disgust. Daejung hit the floor hard and gasped for air. His chest heaved, but within seconds his breathing became controlled again, measured. He coughed once and wiped blood from his mouth. "You want to know about humans?" Daejung asked. He slowly stood up, using the wall for support. "I will tell you, for free." Thrakvol watched suspiciously, but said nothing. "We come from a planet called Earth," Daejung continued. His voice grew stronger as he spoke. "It is what we call a death world. Everything there tries to kill you. The weather, the animals, the plants. Even the air has things in it that make you sick." He took a step forward. Thrakvol noticed, but did not move back. "So we evolved to survive," Daejung said. "Not by being the strongest, not by being the fastest, but by refusing to die. Our bodies can heal from injuries that would kill most species. We can go days without water, weeks without food. We can function with broken bones and torn muscles. We can keep thinking clearly even when we should be unconscious from pain." Another step. Thrakvol's hand moved toward his weapon. "But the real difference is up here," Daejung tapped his temple. "We evolved as hunters, pursuit predators. Do you know what that means? It means we do not stop, ever. If we decide something needs to die, we follow it. For hours, for days, for weeks if necessary. We follow until it collapses from exhaustion, and then we kill it." "Lies," Thrakvol said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. "Test it then," Daejung replied. He spread his arms. "I have been awake for 4 days. Barely eaten, barely drunk. You have beaten me, choked me, put me under 5 times gravity, and I am still standing, still talking, still not broken." The door to the interrogation chamber opened. Hyunwoo stepped in quickly. He looked worried. "Commander, we need to talk now." "Not now," Thrakvol snapped. "Sir, I reviewed the prisoner's file. He is not standard military. He is special operations. That means—" "I do not care what it means," Thrakvol roared. "He is still just a weak human." Daejung laughed. It was a rough sound but genuine. "You really do not get it, do you? You think strength is about size and armor, about who hits harder, but that is not how humans fight." "Then enlighten me," Thrakvol said coldly. "We fight with our minds," Daejung said. "We adapt, we learn, we use tools and tactics, we work together. And most importantly, we do not quit. You can beat us, you can torture us, you can kill us, but you cannot make us give up. That is what makes us dangerous." Thrakvol had heard enough. He wanted to prove this arrogant human wrong once and for all. He walked to the control panel. "You survived 5 times gravity before," the commander said. "Barely. Let us see how you handle 6. The gravity in the room increased immediately. Daejung felt the crushing weight slam down on him. His knees buckled, he went down hard. The pressure was incredible, like having an elephant standing on his chest. Breathing became almost impossible. Blood vessels burst in his nose, in his eyes. Red tears ran down his cheeks. His muscles screamed. His bones felt like they would snap. But he had been here before too. Maybe not exactly this, but close enough. During high-G training for space combat. during centrifuge runs that pushed him to the edge of blackout. During exercises where instructors piled weights on his back until he could barely crawl, the instructors had taught him something important. Pain was just information. The body sent signals saying, stop, quit, die. But those were just signals. They could be acknowledged and then ignored. Dae-jung put his hands flat on the floor. The pressure tried to keep him down. He pushed. His arms shook violently. Sweat and blood mixed on his face. He got one knee under him. Impossible. Thrakfall whispered, then the other knee. Dae-jung was kneeling now under 6 times normal gravity. His vision had narrowed to a tunnel. His heart hammered so hard he thought it might burst, but he was not done. He put one foot down, then the other, and with an effort that seemed to take forever, he stood. He swayed like a tree in a storm. Blood ran freely from his nose and ears. But he was standing. Dae-jung looked directly at Thrakfall through bloody eyes. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper, but everyone in the room heard it. This is what humans are. We endure. Then his legs finally gave out and he collapsed. This time he did not get back up. He lay there breathing in shallow gasps. Unconscious or close to it, Thrakfall shut off the gravity increase. He stared at the broken body on his floor. He had been so certain of human weakness, so confident in Vrelketh's superiority. But what he had just witnessed shook that confidence. Get medical to look at him, the commander said quietly. We need him alive for further questioning. But both he and Hyunwoo knew the truth. They were not keeping the human alive for information. They were keeping him alive because they had just seen something that terrified them. They had seen a creature that should not exist, a being that was soft and weak by every physical measure, but somehow stronger than species that had evolved in harsher conditions. As the medical team carried Dae-jung away, Hyunwoo pulled up more files on human military capabilities. What he found made his blood run cold. Humans had fought wars against each other for their entire history. Thousands of years of constant conflict had made them experts at killing, at surviving, at winning against impossible odds. Their special forces were the best of the best, warriors trained from childhood to be living weapons, and the Vrelketh had just spent 4 days torturing one. Hyunwoo had a terrible feeling that they would all regret this very soon. The alert siren started at 300 ship time. Dae-jung woke instantly in his cell. His training kicked in automatically. He assessed his body. Still hurt, still weak, but functional enough the ship shuddered. Something had hit the hull. Hard. The lights flickered and then switched to emergency red. Through the walls he could hear running feet and shouted orders in the Vrelketh language. On the command deck, Thrakfall gripped his command chair as another impact rocked the Crimson Fang. The tactical display showed the nightmare scenario. 6 Krillian attack ships had appeared from hyperspace with no warning. The insectoid species were old enemies of the Vrelketh. They took no prisoners, showed no mercy. Return fire, Thrakfall ordered. All weapons. Shields at 40%, someone called out. Hull breaches on decks 5 and 7. Engineering reports reactor instability. The Krillians fought with swarm tactics. Their ships were smaller but faster. They darted around the Crimson Fang like angry insects, firing from all angles. The Vrelketh warcruiser was powerful, but it was designed for straight combat. Not this dancing chaos, another massive impact. This time the whole ship seemed to groan. Emergency lights throughout the vessel went dark, and then came back on. Thrakfall's tactical officer turned with fear in his eyes. Sir, the reactor. It is going critical. Engineering says 10 minutes until complete failure. 10 minutes until the reactor exploded. And when it did, it would take the ship and everything nearby with it, including the medical transports full of refugees that had been traveling with them. In the lower decks, Dae-jung felt his cell door lose power. The energy field that had kept him trapped flickered and died. The backup systems were failing. Chaos was spreading through the ship. He stood slowly and moved to the door. It slid open when he pushed it. The corridor outside was empty. Red emergency lights cast everything in crimson shadow. Smoke drifted from damaged panels in the walls. This was his chance. He could find an escape pod. Get off this ship before it exploded. Find his way back to human space. Every instinct of survival told him to run. But then he passed a viewport. Through the transparent material, he saw the battle outside. The Krillian ships were not just attacking the Crimson Fang. They were launching boarding pods at the medical transports. Those ships had no weapons, no defenses, and Daejung knew what was on them. Children, human children who had survived the colony attack, along with civilians from half a dozen other species, all of them helpless, all of them about to die. The Krillians did not take prisoners. Their culture viewed other species as either food or competition. They would slaughter everyone on those transports. Daejung stood at the viewport for exactly 3 seconds. Then he turned and started running. Not toward the escape pods, toward engineering. He moved through the damaged corridors like a ghost. His training covered emergency ship layouts. Most military vessels followed similar designs. He knew roughly where engineering would be. He just had to get there before the reactor exploded. A Vralketh crew member stumbled around a corner, injured and confused. He saw Daejung and reached for his weapon. The human was faster. A quick strike to the nerve cluster in the alien's neck and he dropped unconscious. Daejung took his access card and kept moving. Engineering was chaos when he arrived. Most of the crew there were dead or dying. The reactor core in the center of the room pulsed with unstable energy. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The displays all showed the same message in multiple languages. Critical failure. 8 minutes to detonation. Daejung ran to the main control panel. The interface was in Vralketh, but the symbols were somewhat universal. Power flow. Coolant systems. Magnetic containment. He had studied alien technology during his training. Had practiced on captured equipment. This was different, but the principles were the same. His hands moved across the controls. Rerouting power, adjusting coolant flow, trying to stabilize the magnetic bottles that contained the reaction. It was like trying to defuse a bomb while riding a roller coaster. The door behind him opened. Hyunwoo entered with a damage control team. The sub-commander saw the human prisoner working at the engineering controls and his weapon came up automatically. Then he saw what Daejung was doing. Saw the reactor stabilizing. Saw that the human was not sabotaging the ship. "He was saving it, Hyunwoo said in shock. "What are you doing?" Daejung did not look away from the controls. "What does it look like?" "I need someone who actually knows this system. You can shoot me later." Hyunwoo made a decision in less than a second. He lowered his weapon and ran to another control station. "What do you need?" "Coolant flow on the secondary loop is blocked. I cannot reach those controls from here." Hyunwoo's hands flew across his panel, opening secondary valves. "But the primary containment field is still failing." "I see it. Rerouting power from life support." Daejung's fingers moved with speed and precision. On Earth, he had trained on simulators for hundreds of hours, learning to think fast under pressure, learning to adapt to unfamiliar systems. That training was paying off now. 5 minutes to detonation. A computer voice announced calmly. "The magnetic bottles need more power," Hyunwoo said. "But we do not have it. We are already pulling from everything." Daejung studied the power distribution chart. There had to be something, some system they could sacrifice. Then he saw it. The weapons. "Shut down all weapon systems." "That will leave us defenseless," Hyunwoo protested. "We are already defenseless if this reactor explodes." "Do it." Hyunwoo hesitated for only a moment. Then he sent the command. On the command deck, Thrakvol watched in horror as all his weapons went dark. But before he could demand an explanation, something impossible happened. The reactor stabilized. The critical failure warning stopped. The countdown to detonation halted at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. In engineering, Daejung slumped against the control panel. His hands were shaking from adrenaline. Hyunwoo stared at him with something like wonder. "You saved us," the sub-commander said quietly. "Why? We tortured you. Held you prisoner. You could have escaped." Daejung straightened up. "I saw the Krillians attacking the medical transports. There are children on those ships. That matters more than what you did to me." Before Hyunwoo could respond, the ship shuddered again. Another impact. The Krillians were still attacking, and now the Crimson Fang had no weapons to fight back with. "They are boarding us," Hyunwoo said, reading his tactical display. "Multiple breaching pods across all decks. The crew is trying to hold them back, but there are too many." Daejung moved to look at the display. His mind was already working on the problem. Years of tactical training analyzing the situation. The Krillians fought as a hive mind. That made them coordinated but also predictable. If you understood the pattern, you could exploit it. "Take me to your command deck," he said. Hyunwoo looked uncertain. "The commander will not listen to a prisoner." "Then make him listen. Because in about 10 minutes the Krillians will reach critical systems. They will take control of the ship. And everyone dies, including those children." The two of them ran through the corridors. They had to dodge fighting in several sections. Krillian warriors were pouring through breaches in the hull. The insectoid aliens were smaller than Vralketh but faster and more numerous. They attacked in coordinated swarms that overwhelmed individual defenders. Daejung picked up a fallen weapon as they ran. The energy rifle was heavy and designed for larger hands, but he made it work. When 3 Krillians blocked their path, he dropped them with precise shots. Hyunwoo stared. The human moved like a trained soldier, like a warrior. They reached the command deck. The doors opened to reveal chaos. Thrakvol was coordinating the defense but losing ground. When he saw Daejung, his expression went through shock, rage, and finally something else. Calculation. "The human saved the reactor," Hyunwoo said quickly, "and he has a plan to stop the Krillians." Thrakvol looked at the tactical display, looked at his dying ship, looked at the human who should be his enemy. Pride warred with necessity in his mind. Finally, he gave a short nod. "Speak." Daejung moved to the tactical display. His eyes scanned the data, saw the patterns in the Krillian attack, saw the weakness they did not know they had. "They fight as one mind," he said. "That makes them strong but also predictable. We can use that against them. Here is what we do." He outlined his plan quickly. It was risky, borderline insane. It required perfect timing and coordination. And it meant sending someone deep into enemy-held territory to manually activate systems that would trap and kill the invaders. It required someone who could move unseen through hostile areas. Someone trained for exactly this kind of mission, someone with nothing left to lose. "I will do it," Daejung said simply. Thrakvol studied the human for a long moment. Then he gave the order that would change everything. "Give him what he needs." Daejung moved through the maintenance tunnels like a shadow. The Vralketh had given him proper gear now. Body armor that almost fit, a working rifle, tactical display on his wrist, and a squad of their best warriors following behind him. Hyunwoo was with him. The sub-commander had volunteered without hesitation. Now he watched the human work with growing amazement. This was not the beaten prisoner from days ago. This was a professional soldier in his element. Daejung used hand signals to communicate. The Vralketh warriors understood quickly. Military sign language was fairly universal. They moved in tactical formation through the narrow passages. Every corner checked. Every shadow cleared. It was textbook special operations movement. They reached the first control station. According to the plan, Daejung needed to activate 3 different systems in sequence. This would create a trap that would seal the Krillians in specific sections of the ship. Then they could vent those sections into space. But first they had to get past the Krillians guarding the station. Daejung studied the area from their hidden position. He counted 12 insectoid warriors. They moved in coordinated patterns, never leaving gaps, never breaking formation. The hive mind made them efficient. It also made them predictable. He pulled a small device from his gear. It was a sound emitter. He set it to produce a specific frequency and tossed it down a side corridor. The device activated and made a noise that mimicked damaged ship systems. 6 of the Krillians immediately moved to investigate. The hive mind had sent exactly half the force to check the disturbance. Exactly as Daejung had predicted. They thought as one, which meant they reacted as one. The moment the group split, Daejung attacked. He moved fast and silent. The first Krillian died before it could sound an alarm. The second turned, but Hyunwoo was already there with his blade. The Vralketh warriors surged forward and the brief fight was over in seconds. But now the other 6 knew something was wrong. They came rushing back. Daejung was already at the control panel. His hands flew across the interface. "Hold them," he said calmly. The Vralketh warriors formed a defensive line. The Krillians crashed into them like a wave. The fighting was brutal and close. Mandibles against armor, claws against blades. The corridor became a killing ground. Daejung never looked back. He trusted his team to do their job while he did his. The control system was complex, but he worked through it methodically. Activate the first sequence. Root power. Set the timer. A Krillian broke through the defensive line. It charged straight at Daejung. He spun, brought his rifle up and fired 3 shots without seeming to aim. All 3 hit the alien in vital areas. It dropped dead. Hyunwoo killed the last Krillian and looked at the human with new respect. That had been pure instinct shooting, the kind that came from thousands of hours of training. Maybe tens of thousands. First station done, Dae-jung said. 2 more to go. Move out. They fought their way to the second station, then the third. Each time, Dae-jung used different tactics, different tricks. He adapted to each situation instantly. When the Krillians tried to surround them, he used the ship's own structure to create choke points. When they tried to overwhelm with numbers, he used improvised explosives from damaged systems. The Vralketh warriors had fought beside many species. They had seen courage and skill before. But this was different. The human fought with his brain as much as his weapons. Every move was calculated. Every action had a purpose. He was not just surviving. He was winning. At the third control station, they ran into serious trouble. A full Krillian war party blocked their path. 20 of the insectoid warriors in tight formation. There was no way around them. No way to use tricks or tactics. They would have to fight through. We cannot win this fight, one of the Vralketh warriors said. Fear crept into his voice. Dae-jung studied the situation. The corridor was narrow. The Krillians were bunched together. He looked up at the ceiling, at the environmental controls running along the upper walls. Yes, we can, he said. He raised his rifle and shot the environmental controls. Once, twice, 3 times. The panels exploded and suddenly the corridor was full of freezing air from the coolant systems. The Krillians were insectoids. Cold-blooded. The sudden temperature drop made them sluggish, slow. Their coordinated movements became clumsy. Now, Dae-jung ordered, they charged. The fight was still hard, but now the Vralketh had the advantage. Their armor protected them from the cold. The Krillians could barely move. Within minutes, the corridor was clear. Hyunwoo grabbed Dae-jung's arm as they reached the final control station. How did you know that would work? Studied Krillian biology during training, Dae-jung replied. Always know your enemy. First rule of warfare. He turned to the controls and began the final sequence. On the command deck, Thrakvol watched his tactical display. The humans' plan was working. The Krillians were being herded into specific sections. Their hive mind made them move together, made them concentrate their forces exactly where Dae-jung wanted them. The commander had fought battles for 30 years. He thought he understood warfare, but this human was showing him something new. This was not about strength or firepower. This was about thinking faster than your enemy, about using their own nature against them. All stations activated. Hyunwoo's voice came through the communication system. Awaiting final command. Thrakvol looked at his tactical officer. The Vralketh nodded. All the Krillian forces were now in the trap zones. The boarding parties, the war parties, even their command elements. Thousands of enemy warriors all clustered in sections that could be sealed and vented. Execute, Thrakvol ordered. Throughout the ship, bulkheads slammed shut. The Krillians realized the trap too late. Emergency doors sealed them into compartments. Then the atmosphere vented. The insectoid warriors were sucked into space by the thousands. The few that survived in pressurized sections found themselves facing fresh Vralketh security teams. Without their numbers, without their coordination, they were quickly eliminated. In less than 10 minutes, the boarding threat was over. The Krillian ships outside saw their warriors die, saw the trap they had walked into. They broke off the attack and jumped to hyperspace. The battle was over. Dae-jung made his way back to the command deck with Hyunwoo and the surviving warriors. His body was shaking now from exhaustion and adrenaline crash. The brief burst of combat energy was fading. All the injuries from days of torture were making themselves known again. He stumbled. Hyunwoo caught him. Easy. You are allowed to be tired after saving an entire ship. The medical transports, Dae-jung mumbled. Are they safe? Yes, all of them. Thanks to you. They entered the command deck. Every Vralketh there stopped what they were doing and looked at the human. Thrakvol stepped down from his command chair. He walked slowly to where Dae-jung stood supported by Hyunwoo. The commander stared at him for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He placed his right hand over his chest in the Vralketh gesture of respect between warriors. You have proven me wrong, human, Thrakvol said formally. I judged you by your appearance, by your size and strength. I was blind. You are no prey creature. You are a warrior worthy of respect. Daejung swayed but managed to stay upright. I told you. Humans endure. Get him to medical, Thrakfall ordered. And this time, treat him as one of our own. As the medical team rushed forward, Daejung's vision started to blur. His body had finally reached its limit. Days of torture, extreme gravity, and intense combat. Even human endurance had boundaries. But as consciousness faded, he felt something like satisfaction. He had saved those children, saved the transports, completed his mission even as a prisoner on an enemy ship. That was enough. Yunwoo stood beside the medical team as they worked on the unconscious human. One of the Vralketh warriors who had fought alongside Daejung approached. Sub-Commander, I have fought many battles, seen many species in combat, but I have never seen anything like that human. He should not have survived, should not have kept fighting, should not have won, but he did all three. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. I think we have learned something important today. We thought we knew what strength was. We were wrong. Real strength is not about how hard you can hit. It is about how many times you can get hit and still keep fighting. The humans have that strength, the warrior said. Yes. Hyunwoo agreed quietly, and we should be very glad they are not our enemies. Daejung woke in the medical bay 3 days later. The first thing he noticed was that he was not restrained. The second thing was that his body did not hurt as much anymore. The Vralketh medical technology was good. Very good. A medic saw him wake and immediately called for Hyunwoo. The sub-commander arrived within minutes. He looked relieved. You have been unconscious for 70 hours, Hyunwoo said. The doctors said your body was running on nothing but willpower for at least a day before you collapsed. They are amazed you survived at all. Daejung sat up slowly. His muscles protested but worked. Where are we? Safe space. Repairs are underway. The medical transports are all intact. Everyone you saved is alive and well. Daejung nodded. That was what mattered. And Commander Thrakfall? I assume he wants to continue my interrogation now that I am recovered. Hyunwoo smiled slightly. No, actually, he wants to speak with you. But not as a prisoner. Things have changed. 20 minutes later, Daejung stood in what looked like a formal meeting room. He was dressed in clean clothes and his injuries were bandaged properly. Thrakfall entered with 2 other Vralketh officers. All of them wore their dress uniforms. The commander approached and stopped a respectful distance away. When he spoke, his voice was formal but sincere. Lieutenant Daejung of the human military. I have made many mistakes in my career, but few as serious as my treatment of you. I judged your entire species by appearance, by my own narrow understanding of strength. I was wrong. Daejung said nothing, just listened. You saved my ship, Thrakfall continued. Saved my crew. Saved civilians who were not even your own people. You did this after I tortured you. After I mocked you and your kind. You had every reason to let us die. But you chose honor instead of revenge. The commander reached into his uniform and pulled out a data chip. I have sent a formal petition to the Vralketh High Command. I am requesting that you be granted the title of Warrior in Honor. This is rarely given to those outside our species. It grants you freedom, safe passage through our territory, and the right to bear arms in our space. It also marks you as someone who has earned our respect through action. He held out the chip. Daejung took it slowly. Thank you, Daejung said simply, but I need you to understand something. I did not do this for a reward. I did it because it was right. Those transports had children on them. That mattered more than anything you did to me. I know, Thrakfall replied. That is exactly why you deserve the honor. True warriors do not fight for glory or reward. They fight because someone must. Because it is right. He paused, then added, I have also sent a full report to my government about human capabilities, about what I learned. I suspect many things will change because of this encounter. The Vralketh have always respected strength. Now we know that humans have it. Just not in the way we expected. Over the next few days, Daejung recovered more fully. The Vralketh crew treated him differently now. With respect. With curiosity. Many wanted to talk to him, to ask questions about Earth and humanity, about how humans trained, how they fought, how they thought, he answered honestly, explained about human history, about thousands of years of warfare teaching them how to survive, about cultures that valued determination as much as strength, about training that pushed soldiers beyond what they thought possible. Yunwoo became something close to a friend during this time. They spent hours talking about tactics, about philosophy, about the differences and similarities between their species. Can I ask you something personal? Hyun-woo said one day as they sat in the observation deck. Go ahead. When you stood under 6 times gravity. When you were dying. What made you keep going? What made you stand when any rational being would have given up? Dae-jung thought about it for a moment. My grandfather told me something when I was young. He said that humans are not special because we are strong. We are special because we are stubborn. We do not know when to quit. That stubbornness has kept us alive through ice ages, plagues, wars, and everything else that should have killed us. He looked out at the stars beyond the viewport. When I was under that gravity, I could have quit. Should have quit. My body was screaming at me to stop. But I thought about all the humans who came before me, who faced impossible odds and survived anyway. I thought about my team, about my mission, about those children on the transports, and I decided that gravity was not going to beat me. So you simply refused to lose, Hyun-woo said quietly. Yes, that is what humans do. We refuse to lose, even when losing is the logical outcome. Hyun-woo was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I think that might be the most terrifying thing I have ever heard. Dae-jung smiled. Good, remember that feeling. Remember it every time you think about making humans your enemies. Finally, the day came when a human ship arrived. A diplomatic vessel had been sent to negotiate for prisoner exchanges. They were surprised to find that the Vroketh were releasing Dae-jung freely. With honors. With respect. Thrakvol walked Dae-jung to the shuttle bay personally. Hyun-woo came too. Much of the crew lined the corridors to watch him leave. Some even gave the Vroketh salute of respect. At the shuttle entrance, Thrakvol stopped. I hope we meet again someday, human. Perhaps under better circumstances. Perhaps as allies instead of enemies. I would like that, Dae-jung replied. And Commander? Thank you for learning. Not every warrior can admit when they are wrong. That takes a different kind of strength. Hyun-woo stepped forward. Take care of yourself, friend. And if you're ever in Vroketh space again, you have allies here. Same to you. If you ever need help in human territory, look me up. They clasped arms in the human way. Then Dae-jung boarded the shuttle. As it pulled away from the Crimson Fang, he looked back at the massive warship. A week ago, it had been his prison. His torture chamber. Now it was something else. A place where he had proven something important. That humans were not weak. Just different. And that difference was their strength. On the command deck, Thrakvol watched the human shuttle disappear into hyperspace. One of his officers approached. Sir, the High Command approved your petition. They have also ordered a full review of our intelligence on human military capabilities. They want to know more about this species. Good, Thrakvol said. We should know more. We should understand them better. Because I think humans are going to be very important in the galaxy's future. Are they that dangerous, sir? Thrakvol thought about Dae-jung standing under 6 times gravity, about him saving a ship full of his enemies, about the quiet determination in those human eyes. No, he said finally. They are not dangerous because of their weapons or their numbers. They are dangerous because they do not quit, because they will endure things that would break any other species, because they fight for what they believe is right even when it costs them everything. He turned to face his crew. Spread the word through the fleet. Humans are not prey. They are not weak. They are warriors who simply fight differently than we do. Treat them with respect, and above all, do not make them our enemies. Yes, sir. Months later, the story of what happened on the Crimson Fang spread through the galaxy. Different species told it in different ways. But the core message was the same. There was a species called humans. They looked weak. They seemed fragile. But they possessed something that transcended physical strength. They had determination, endurance, stubbornness, and most importantly, they had a sense of right and wrong that made them act even when it went against their own interests. Some species laughed at the story, called it propaganda, but the wise ones, the ones who understood that strength came in many forms, they listened, they learned. They understood that humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy in a very clear way. Back on Earth, Dae-jung returned to his unit. His commander read the report from the Vroketh with raised eyebrows. The part about standing under 6 times gravity was especially hard to believe. Is all this true? The commander asked. Yes, sir. How did you survive? Dae-jung thought about all the training, all the pain, all the moments when giving up would have been easier. He thought about his team, about those children on the transports, about what it meant to be human. I just did what any of us would do, sir. I refused to quit. The commander smiled slightly. That is exactly what makes us human, Lieutenant. Welcome home. And somewhere in deep space, on a Vralketh war cruiser still undergoing repairs, Thrakvol looked at a star chart showing human territory. It was not large compared to other galactic powers. Not yet, but he knew it would grow because humans did not quit. They endured. They adapted. They survived. And eventually they won. That was their nature. That was their strength. And the galaxy would learn to respect it.